very, very good evening. Now you're talking of the war drums that are literally deafening. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will not rule out striking Iran's supreme leader. You've heard that right. He's repeated that again. He says all options are on the table. After the Iranian missiles that you have seen who literally slammed into 4 sites there today, including a hospital, Israel has also hit back. What did they do? They targeted the Iraq nuclear reactor, but is the Iron Dome leaking? Again, that is a question that a lot of people are asking. What is happening? Why is Israel not able to repel the kind of attacks we are seeing on our screens? Does this mean that the Iron Dome is under pressure? It, remember, was the shield that once stopped absolutely everything. But now it has been pierced. It's a full-blown blitz that just may be hours away, and then you have 3 US warships. You have the B-52 stealth bombers. And Iran right now is encircled. It is also strike ready. You're talking of the US. So is Trump going to be backing Israel, or is Trump going to be leading the charge? This is an important question that everyone is asking. And in the middle of all this, the supreme leader of Iran, he is standing alone. He doesn't have allies anymore around him. There is no China, there is no Russia, there is absolutely no help coming in. And Trump, even Trump has been dining with Pakistan, imagine. The same Pakistan that inflicts terror against India, and then this man, the United States of America's president, is dining with Asim Munir. Can you really trust that man? I mean, there are so many questions as you watch this, also from India looking at this. And how is it that you can have good terrorists and bad terrorists? What happens next? But first up, as always, we get you breaking updates on a story that is developing in real time. And as promised, you have the first response from Benjamin Netanyahu, who earlier was at one of the sites that has been attacked earlier, that has seen some bit of damage. And Benjamin Netanyahu again has reiterated that same warning. He says all options are on the table. He's again urged the US to say that you have to get into this war because we have to ensure that right now there could be no nuclear threat. And more details of what we've heard from him are flashing on your screens as Iran has struck that Israeli hospital. And you also have Israel saying that Iran has crossed the line. Let's listen into that reaction coming in.
We're targeting military sites. We're targeting nuclear sites. We're targeting missile sites. They're targeting a hospital. In this hospital, there are patients who are immobile. They can't even move. Right next to it is a children's ward, a baby's ward, infants. They're targeting civilians because they're a criminal regime. They're the arch terrorists of the world. They want to have nuclear terrorism, which will put the entire world under nuclear blackmail, and they would use these weapons. That's what the Ayatollah Khamenei says that he would do. He would use these weapons to wipe Israel off the map. Well, he's not going to. We're not going to let him. President Trump will do what's best for America. I trust his judgment.
Let's get you more breaking updates coming in. The IRGC, in fact, has said that this is the 15th wave of attacks on Israel that has been launched through missiles, through drones, and they've all targeted Tel Aviv. In fact, the Haifa military sites are also under attack as we speak. We'll get you those images also on your screens. Iran has struck the military industrial centers, and about 100 combat drones have been launched. These are also suicide drones. They've targeted the air defense system. The IRGC has vowed that there are going to be more missile strikes. So even right now when you're speaking, you're looking at these images on your screens. There is absolutely no let up. It is day 7 of this big escalation that you're seeing, and clearly now you have people getting really worried about how far this escalation could go. Let's also, without wasting more time, get you the quick 5 war updates. What has happened in the day so far that you must know? There are a lot of these dramatic images also that we'll play out on your screens, the ones that you see there. Israel, remember, has attacked the Iranians' Iraq heavy water reactor. This has again drawn a lot of sharp response from around world capitals. Those are those images that I'm just referring to. The second big war update that you need to know is that Iran has also struck an Israeli hospital. The images are very, very disturbing. You see patients, you see children all lying there in blood. We also did later see Benjamin Netanyahu rushing to the spot, and from there, he's again put out that clear warning. This is our third breaking update on the story where Iran also right now, as we speak, is facing almost a near total internet blackout. So there is no way that you might have these videos coming out in real time and information coming in real time. So a lot of this that you will see on your screens could possibly be delayed. But the action is happening right now. This brings us to our fourth important war update, where Israel has claimed that 2/3 of the Iranian missile silos have been hit. This is important because you're looking at ballistic missiles being used, even the cruise missiles, and now Israel saying that about 2/3 of the Iranian missile silos have been hit as far as this particular development is concerned. And the fifth important war update that again you must know about is that the IDF has claimed that Iran has launched 450 ballistic missiles. 450 is what the IDF claims. But a lot of this, remember, is about the Iron Dome. Where is the Iron Dome? Is it still working? Is it under pressure? And that's going to be our next update that we are now putting our focus on. Because clearly, how are you looking at Iran being able to attack and their missiles actually breaching that Iron Dome, getting inside, hitting hospitals and even the stock exchange? And I want to quickly now request our team to put out those graphics to help you understand what are we talking about the Iron Dome. Is that, again, a point of concern as far as Israel is concerned? And let's play that out if possible, please. And we'll be looking at those details on your screens in just a moment. But you're also reading those breaking developments of what Netanyahu has again said, and they are lauding Trump. They believe that Trump can get into this war right now, and we can have a very, very different response. So is the Iron Dome under pressure? Why we say this? Look at the entire sequence of events. June the 19th, that is earlier today, you have the Iranian missile that hit the Soroka hospital. It actually breaches the Iron Dome. It hits the hospital. 240 plus people are injured right now, a lot of them grievously. Let's bring up the second important detail as far as the Iron Dome is concerned, and that's now on your screens. Is this now a new threat? Why we say this is because multi-warhead ballistic missiles have breached the defenses of the Iron Dome of Israel. Do remember during Operation Sindoor, there was a lot of conversation about this Iron Dome, and India also has a similar response system, and that is why we were able to repel a lot of these missiles and drones that came in from Pakistan. And likewise, let's get the third important pointer also on our screens. Now, there has been a barrage. So when you continuously keep firing, the idea is to ensure that the defense system weakens. Now, 400 plus missiles is what the Iron Dome has been able to receive so far. There are drones, there are cruise attacks in just 6 days. Look at the number, 400 missiles in 6 days. That is how bad the situation has become. Let's bring up our next important pointer. This is about the interception rate. When you have a missile, when you have the Iron Dome, how many are intercepted? That is what you would want to know. About 90% of the missiles are being intercepted is what the IDF claim, and the breaches are still happening. One of the breach was again what happened at the Soroka hospital earlier today, where we have seen people sustaining injuries. This brings us to our next important point. Is there a tactic that has been employed by Iran, to ensure that the Iron Dome becomes overloaded, because of which it stops functioning, or there are problems here? Because Iran is saturating the Iron Dome with continuous barrage of missiles. That possibly could also explain the reason of this saturation. System is strained. There are Arrow missile stocks that are critically low right now, and they need a resupply. And that is why, again and again, you're looking at Israel that is urging the US to get into this war. They say you have to stop Iran at all costs. This brings us to our next important point. What is the US support you're talking about in this entire Iron Dome? Remember, there is another system that is called the Patriot and the THAAD systems that are also deployed. So it is not just the Iron Dome, it is the Patriot and the THAAD system that are also working right now to repel all these missiles, all these drone launches that are coming from Iran. But would it be fair to say that the Iron Dome has collapsed? For the moment, no. It is not a collapse. Why? Because the dome is still working, but yes, it has been stretched thin. It is working more than what possibly its capacity is. For how long can it sustain is also a question we will answer during the course of this show here. Now, is there a tactical shift when you look at Iran? Because Iran has started to evolve new missile designs, and the idea is to have a smarter attack so that you can breach the Iron Dome and hit at Israel. So who really is funding Iran? That is also a question you must ask. Who are those powers standing with Iran who's helping Iran in this technology? So what is next? The critical important question. There could be more breaches. That is likely. And Israel, like I said, needs an urgent resupply. All of this is also going to be coming in from the US, but Israel time and again has said that this is not just a regional war, not just about Iran and Israel. This is a huge war about the geopolitics of the region, and this is where the US needs to come in. Now, who else but a very important guest that I want to introduce on this show. His name is Amir Avivi. He's the Brigadier General of the Reserve, the ultimate insider of the IDF. Amir, if I may introduce you like that, I will, ask you the upfront question. Is the Iron Dome leaking? Is it failing? Is it under pressure?
The air defense of Israel is working very well. These ballistic missiles that are being shot at Israel are intercepted mostly by Arrow 3. This system intercepts these ballistic missiles in space, and it has more than 90% success, but it's hard to reach 100%. So occasionally, there is a ballistic missile that manages to go through the Israeli air defense that is also coupled with American air defense. And this requires the citizens of Israel to be alert and ready and inside the bunkers.
Okay, Amir, what you say is important, but tell me something. Is the Iron Dome still reliable? I mean, this could be a real cause of concern. Though you say that Israel right now is able to deal with the situation effectively, but are we also talking and looking at a post-Iron Dome era now?
So we see that Israel is managing to destroy systematically the ballistic capabilities of Iran. Iran wanted to shoot hundreds of ballistic missiles on each event, but they are not managing to do so, and they are shooting less and less. Israel destroyed more than 40% of the launchers in Iran. And at the moment, Israel is perfectly capable of defending its airspace, and it's working well both on offensive and in the defense of Israel.
Okay, Amir, I think there are so many more important points about the Iron Dome that we must be talking about in the next few minutes. But I'm just requesting you to stay with us as I want to wind up this conversation and look at what is the role of the US. How far is the US willing to go? What is the US doing right now as we speak? Because don't forget, no matter what Donald Trump might want to tell you that, he's not telling anyone what he wants to know. But let's put up details of what America is doing right now. And these are details that you must know. Now, in the center here is Iran. If you're wondering where is the US, where is Israel, wait for the details to come in, because I'm going to tell you more about the US military footprint in the Middle East. All the bases that the US has been able to set up very, very close to Iran. We let those graphics come on our screens one by one. The first important detail is Qatar. Now, in Qatar, you have a base that is called the Al Udeid Air Base. What is important for you to know as far as this air base is concerned? It is the largest US military base. It has about 100 aircrafts and an equal number of drones. About 8,000 troops is what can be stationed at this particular base in Qatar. It's a major air operations hub. And look at the distance between Qatar and Iran to help you understand what has the US's game plan been. We'll bring up the next location now on our screens, and you continuously should look at Iran and the next distance. Very tiny dot there next to Qatar is you will see Bahrain. Now, what is important in Bahrain for you to know is that the base is called the Naval Support Activity. This can house about 9,000 personnel. So look at the numbers and keep adding those numbers, because about 40,000 to 50,000 US personnel are stationed over all these bases. Then the US Navy's 5th Fleet Headquarters, again at Bahrain, and the distance between Bahrain and Iran for you to know very, very quickly. Let's bring up the next location also, as we'll keep expanding this map. The next location here is Saudi Arabia. Again, this has been in the news, it's been in the conversation. The base is the Prince Sultan Air Base. 2,700 troops can be stationed at this particular point. It's a strategic air power base that is essentially used by the US. Brings us to our next important location on this map. This is in Kuwait. And keep looking at the location, how America has ensured that Iran is encircled, because its presence there in the Middle East is equally important. Now in Kuwait, you have the Camp Arif Jan. What is important about this camp is that this is located about 55 kilometers southeast of the Kuwaiti city. Key logistics and a joint force base is what the Camp Arif Jan is all about. This brings us to our next important detail that's going to go up on your map, and this is the UAE, where you have the Al Dhafra Air Base. 3,500 troops. 3,500 troops can be stationed here on this particular base. It also hosts advanced aircrafts like the F-22 Raptor stealth fighters. It also houses surveillance planes, including drones, intel, surveillance, and strike operations. So look at the kind of machines, look at the kind of men, the numbers, the manpower that the US has been able to ensure, and this is just not it. We have another location. This is Iraq. So if you look at the entire axis that is being created next to Iran here in red, you will understand the significance of all these bases that have been in operation for the longest time. Now in Iraq, you have the Erbil Air Base. It's been used by the US forces for air operations in northern Iraq and in Syria in particular. So this is how you have Iran already getting encircled, but just not it. We'll get you more details also of what more is the US doing as we speak to ensure that there is enough and more pressure on Iran right now to buckle down or else face the consequences. I want to go back to Amir and ask him the next important question. As we've been looking, Amir, at a lot of this conversation about the US and everything else, but talking again of the Iron Dome, and because we see a lot of these missiles still being picked up, intercepted, how many more such waves you think that Israel can absorb before you have real gaps that start to open up and before you have more damage that possibly could be caused?
So I think that this war is going to be not more than 2 more weeks. Iran is going to fall. This regime is going to fall. The Israelis are dominating Iranian skies. It took us 2 days to bring this regime on its knees, and IDF is operating freely all over Iran, destroying their nuclear sites and capabilities, and also systematically degrading the government's capability to rule. So really the big question is how long it will take until the regime falls or Iran surrenders. And we're not far away. And the big question is America going into the fight? Are we going to see strategic bombers also participating in the destruction of the nuclear sites? And this we'll know in the coming 2 days.
So, Amir, you've touched on a lot of important points. You've spoken of a regime change that you're looking at in Iran. You've also spoken about how long possibly you can sustain, and you're saying 2 weeks. You're also speaking of the role of the US. Now, tell me more about this. How long before you believe that you can have a regime change in, Iran? How will you do this? And what is the role of the US?
So I think that when we see a regime that wants to eradicate completely the state of Israel, that is seeking nuclear capabilities, that is shooting indiscriminately citizens, the messages we hear from the Minister of Defense and the Prime Minister of Israel is, we are not ruling the possibility of eliminating the head of the regime. And we might see it in the coming week or two. I think that Israel is perfectly capable of defending its airspace for a long time. And long before we'll have issues with air defense, this war is going to be won decisively against Iran.
Okay, so I heard those words, and I think our viewers must have also heard those words. You have an ultimate IDF insider who says just 2 weeks, and he also does say that it just took 2 days for this regime in Iran to actually come down on its knees. Amir, I'm again requesting you to stay with us as I want to touch more upon a point that he just made. This is the role of the US. Remember, we just told you more about how Iran has just gotten encircled with a lot of these bases. But what more is the US doing right now as we speak? What are the kinds of machines that are already out, at least in the skies and at least in water? We'll bring up those details now on our screens one by one. Remember, as the US is ramping up the military presence, now there is this aircraft carrier that is called the USS Nimitz. It's a very, very important name. It's a very important detail for anyone interested in understanding how do you do this firefighting and a lot of these things. It has been redeployed to West Asia. So it was in another part of the world and it has been moved towards West Asia. It's a huge carrier. It's a huge carrier and it can carry about 5,000 personnel just on this carrier and 60 plus aircraft. Just think of it, how huge this is going to be, where you have 60 plus aircraft right on top of this carrier. And that is already on the move as we speak. And over on top of this, you have 30 KC-135 Stratotankers. These again are heavy machines that are used by the US and KC-46A Pegasus. And all of them right now are being moved towards Europe. So there is a movement. Why is this movement happening right now? Is this just a pressure tactic, or there is a plan that Donald Trump is working accordingly? And there are also aerial refueling planes. I mean, these are planes that can actually refuel a lot of these fighter jets while they are in air. All of them being shifted to Europe again as we speak. Is this just a coincidence? We will let our viewers decide this. And all this, what does this entail? What does this tell us? That this is about readiness for extended operations. Because we do not know for how long this is going to continue. Today is day 7 of this entire escalation, and the US obviously right now is giving a lot of important signals. So Amir, when you talk of a lot of these signals as far as the US is concerned, I want to know one thing. Do you believe that Israel today is feeling abandoned by the US? Because this is the same US and the same Donald Trump who's having a lunch with Asim Munir, the same man who's responsible for the Pahalgam terror attack. I mean, so much for the hypocrisy of America when it comes to terror.
Israel and the US are fully coordinated throughout this war. The US is assisting a lot Israel with intelligence, with air defense capabilities, and we're hoping to see the US also attacking, because this is not just about Iran. Israel can deal with Iran. This is about really stabilizing the globe, because if the US says, if we are not shot, we're not going to intervene, the message to China is, okay, we'll invade Taiwan. We are not going to shoot Americans. Or the Russians will invade other countries in Europe and will not attack Americans. Does it mean America is not going to intervene? So this is a global issue. It's not just a regional issue, and it's not just about Iran. Israel can perfectly manage with Iran. The question is, are we going to stabilize the globe, or it is going to destabilize and we'll see more wars coming in the future?
Okay, Amir, but I must also just be very brute. Can you and can Israel really trust Donald Trump, who calls Pakistan name earlier? He calls Pakistan deceitful. And today he's saying that Pakistan is a strong and a responsible ally. So is it the credential of Donald Trump also under question here?
President Trump is seeking really an alliance, a Western, Israeli, moderate Sunni alliance that will extend all the way to Indonesia. And India has a big part in this alliance in creating new routes of trade. And President Trump wants to see more countries siding with the US, and we respect that. But at the end of the day, we also hope to see leadership. This is a time for Churchills, not Chamberlains. And we're hoping to see President Trump coming as a Churchill, just as Netanyahu is leading this war. And if the US goes into the fight, this war will shorten a lot. It will save a lot of lives. And attacking Iran, it's not about beginning a war. Attacking Iran means the end of the war. It means bringing down the Shia axis and ending the war in the Middle East and moving towards peace agreements and prosperity.
Okay, I think what you said again is very, very important. And I do realize that these are very difficult times. And clearly the leadership of Donald Trump is what you people also hope is going to come forward. Amir, I'm just again requesting you to stay with me as I want to expand this conversation again to US, what the US is doing. So remember, we've seen about the bases encircling of Iran. Then we got you details of the military footprint that you see of the US again right now and a lot of more push. But now I want to talk about a plane. Now you must be thinking, what is this plane got to do with Iran versus Israel? But let me bring up the details because this is a plane that interestingly has been spotted over Washington in the last few hours and people are curious, what is this plane doing there? What is this plane called? This is America's Doomsday plane. This is almost a representational video that you see on your screens, just an image of this. It is actually called the Doomsday plane. But this is a Boeing E-4B Night Watch. This is the technical name of this particular plane that again has drawn a lot of eyebrows as it was spotted in Washington. Now this is nicknamed the Flying Pentagon. Think of this. This plane is called the Flying Pentagon. Obviously for a reason, Pentagon represents the defense headquarters of the US. More details on your screens. This plane, why is it special? Because this can survive nukes, any kind of nuclear weapon, it is resistant to it. It can also survive cyber attacks, absolutely unaffected by it. And not just this, even the electromagnetic interference, nothing can bother this plane. That is how sturdy this is, and that is why this is so special. Now, it has a mobile war command for the president. So you can have the president, you can have the vice president, all important people when it comes to the government, all who travel on this, and they can be in touch with whoever they want to. Then this can also launch retaliatory strikes mid-air. It can be in the air and it can still strike back. That is the kind of capability that this particular plane has. Now there are about 4 of such planes that the US has, 4, and one of them is always on the standby, as in one of them is always ready with all preparations, with all systems and checks in places. This can carry 112 personnel on board. Again, for you, important to remember this number. It can fly 7,000 plus miles. It can stay airborne for about 35 hours, more than a day. This plane can actually be in the air. So this plane is spotted over Washington. It takes an unusually different route, is what a lot of news reports tell us. What is Trump planning? What is US planning? Is there already a plan in place? Clearly a question that we still don't have an answer to. But I want to go back to Amir with that particular question and a lot more, Amir. As we were discussing all these details, and I have to talk about this fight against terror. You know, both India and Israel have borne the brunt of terror. Both countries have drawn their own red lines. But when it comes to the US, do you feel still that the US needs to do a lot more in this fight against terror?
Yes, definitely. We want to, the relationship of Israel and India is very, very strong. And it's a strong alliance. And we want to deepen it. And we really appreciate this friendship. And we have a lot of cooperation talking about military exchange of knowledge and so on. And we definitely want to strengthen this. And I think that moving towards the Abraham Accords, normalizing relations with Saudi Arabia, and really connecting the trade between India and the Middle East through Israel, this is the key to strengthening these relations.
Okay, Amir, as we were having this conversation, on our screens are 2 defining images. One is Ayatollah, the supreme leader of Iran. The other is Saddam Hussein. I want to ask you that, do you believe that an assassination possibly could happen of the supreme leader? Is that what Israel could be wanting to do?
It's very serious because we understand that it's not enough to destroy the nuclear sites or ballistic missile capability. If this regime stays, so in 2 or 3 years, we'll see the regime again seeking the destruction of Israel and the West. And I think this is terrible. 80% of the Iranians don't want this regime. It's oppressing them. It's endangering and destabilizing the whole Middle East. And I think we have a true opportunity to do a real change that will impact for generations in the Middle East and bring down this evil regime that is really seeking global domination.
All right, Amir Ravivi, for the moment, thank you so much. So a regime change